My name is Andrew Costello. I'm the Disability Officer and Assistive Technology Officer here for the Disability Service. Today I would like to speak to you for the next 10-15 minutes regarding using mind maps for revision and how mind maps can help you build a picture view of your revision tools and items that you would like to cover, and make it more easier for you to see the topics more pictorial over seeing just pure text essentially all the way through. So the tool that we use essentially is called Mind View. I'm just going to jump it in and show you how to. So essentially, if you go to Mind View into Google and browse for it essentially all the way through, the first one that comes up here is Mind View software, and you can actually download it for a free trial if you wish, using the options here on the right hand side, Windows essentially all the way through. So you can pick it up, no problem at all, or install it for free essentially all the way through if you wish. It's a 30-day free trial, and from there, if you like to continue on using it, you can come back to me and I can activate the product for you essentially all the way through. But I suppose the free trial is a good way of getting used to it and understanding some of its pros and cons essentially all the way through. So I'm going to launch the software here now at the moment. Here it is on my software. And by launching it, you get into a screen like so, essentially all the way through. You can start building your own mind map essentially all the way through if you wish, all the way through using the structures that are given to you at the top of the page. You can also look for templates that are already available for you to use, or the software provider has provided essentially all the way through. And we're going to use some of them here today all the way through. So I mean, mind maps can be used for, you can see, anything essentially all the way through. It's a good way of actually showing it's not just for education. You can use it for a weekly plan or even a personal self-assessment essentially all the way through. And there's a whole range of things that you can use it for, not just listing out academic topics essentially, or things that you must do around your academic work. In saying that, we are going to use into the education option here all the way through. They have filters here for different types of academia courses essentially all the way through, language arts, history, you say, and you can click into them, and there's different things here listed essentially all the way through, quite basic in what they are. So I kind of use the personal option here essentially all the way through. And there's three that come up essentially. Oh, sorry, where is it again? So under education and under organizational tools, should I say, all the way through. There's a lesson plan, a yearly one, a weekly one, essentially all the way through. And at the end here, study skills, essentially all the way through, which lists out more things essentially that you can look at essentially all the way through. And one of the templates that I have been using with students previously is around the use of a revision plan, essentially all the way through. And so by clicking on that, it goes and uses that template and opens it up. So let's see if we can get that to do that for me. Here it comes. Essentially, and it creates the template. Here we go, essentially for you all the way through. Now you can build your own, as I said, again, from going back to the start there, and I'll show you that quickly again before we leave. But essentially what we get here is a list of stuff and topics, obviously, with some basic enough terms against it essentially all the way through. And what we can do here, we can go back in and edit this essentially to update it what we want it to be like essentially all the way through. So I'm always impatient when it goes to clicking, so I can change the text and update it to what I want. So I can go like course review, module 1, or whatever name of your module that you're taking essentially all the way through. And then you can update the topics that you wish into it, that you have to cover, maybe from your syllabus, again from your syllabus that you're aware of. Some areas that you know that might want to come up regarding exam time essentially all the way through. You can plant it in here essentially and expand it out essentially. So really what mind maps do is cut out the heavy text scenario all the way through. So for someone maybe who's processing difficulties essentially all the way through, or can get disorganized quite quickly, seeing stuff in a quite simple layout essentially with the core topic here against it, but then the the next branch of core or syllabi topics essentially outside of that essentially gets me more, I'm able to link them up essentially all the way through. My mind is able to process a lot of that, I suppose, process that a bit more easier for myself, and I can then visualize that essentially. If I came into an exam under pressure, I can then remember what the links essentially are essentially all the way through, and then expand on each all the way through. Now you can obviously go back in here, change stuff again, as I said, all the way through, and you can make changes to ending here. But as I said here, you can continue adding on to it essentially all the way through. So I can add on a sub branch to any of these topics essentially all the way through, and it will add on information to it. So for example, you go up here and use sub branch, I can keep adding as much branches that I wish to it essentially all the way through. It's as much as you wish to expand on. Now I would say I would never go beyond maybe 3 to 4 branches, because it grows and grows and grows. You want to keep it concise, something that's bite size for you to use essentially all the way through. But it's a really, really good simple tool essentially that gives you a starting template that you can then add information to. And I'm not just talking about textual information like I'm showing here at the moment all the way through. So at the very top of this bar, we've got a few options around home, insert, review, share and view. So under the insert option, we can add in other areas like click on it, like audio notes, for example. So I could talk in a note essentially all the way through if I wish. I can add in an attachment, for example, from that's stored in my document essentially all the way that's stored on my computer. I can add in a hyperlink to a website page essentially, or something that is stored on your OneDrive or Google Drive essentially all the way through. So for example, I'll put in something like here, RT News, and I'll put in www.rt. You would obviously might have again an academic journal essentially all the way through, and that shows then as this attachment that's added on to your note essentially all the way through. And you would do the same if you've added in a document essentially all the way through. It will add in a further scenario all the way through here, and you can see them here attached to the note, and you can add that to any type of note essentially all the way through, So it's a really, really nice way of doing it essentially all the way through. You can add obviously citations. If you're adding a citation, it will give you, existing sources. I suppose if you're using something like EndNote, essentially, you could do that essentially all the way through, and you can add in your citation if you wish. Now, I've always predominantly used it as a revision tool. I haven't gone into that deep where I'm adding it as a citation tool, because other tools like EndNote and like Zotero will do that in a bit more streamlined way for myself essentially all the way through. But you have the ability to branch on to your information essentially in any way all the way through. So you can add in a branch, a picture branch essentially all the way through. You can keep on adding stuff to it essentially, even a textual note, for example. So if I add it in, go to another option here and just add in a text note, I can add in down here below. I've got this very low. There we go. And this is a test of how I can add in a test note. My spelling mistake, and then we can insert that in essentially all the way through by just closing out of it. It will insert itself into the doc. So here you can see it here already. This is the test, and there it is showing all the way through. You can go up here obviously and also change the way things are listed, or add numbering to them if you wish, to make it a bit more logical if you wish. And there's a whole range of different types of stuff here for you to do. You can change the view essentially all the way through to a top-down view, to a mind map view essentially all the way through, different ways that it's visually presented to you essentially all the way through. What else we can do here all the way through? You can highlight stuff essentially all the way through. You can add in types of things, put in things that you predominantly use. You can French, I've highlighted that as red essentially all the way through. You can change the color essentially against it all the way through. I can also also gives you here an option again to change the view again all the way through. I can share the document out to myself, so save it back to my online platform like OneDrive or Google Drive essentially here if I want to do that. I can obviously save it onto my desktop if I wish by going via file and simple save as. What else? Whoops. What else am I doing? You can review the document as well. You can even narrate, which sometimes people, also students, find handy. So again, not even type in there, just talk in my options and talk in my ideas essentially all the way through. These even could be a question and answer scenario where you have 7 questions instead of the 7 topics, and then the answer essentially beside it per se all the way through, and you can quiz and quiz yourself on them essentially as you're working your way through it. So it's a nice way to build up a visual interpretation of a bulk of work or a bulk of text, and it's used quite heavily again for that kind of problem solving, research even kind of thing, study mode essentially all the way through. Spelling, what else? Just to finish up on it all the way through, yeah, you can add in, as I said, more branches, and as it brings you back to kind of your kind of basic view at the top here, where you can add your text note, where you have the more kind of streamlined options essentially available for you to use all the way through. You can add tasks here on the right hand side. That was under task and info, and just heads up this if you wanted to add in a task, you can give it a start date and an end date. Again, I would never have I've used it to that level per se all the way through. I don't use it as a way of planning out an essay with well, I suppose with specific start and end times, but it is useful if you wanted to take it to that level. I can meet with you and we could explore that a bit further. One of the options and why I like this tool is also you can export again the mind map that you've just created. So in this case here we have a mind map that's created in the software, but I can export it to all these types of formats quite easily. So I mean, I suppose an easier thing that people use it for is when they create an essay, they use this as a research tool to put their essay into essentially, or build their essay essentially in there and the things they're going to talk about, and then from there they can export it out to Microsoft Word. I'll just do a quick one in this case all the way through, and it opens up Microsoft Word. Here we go, here on the desktop. Yes, please, I'll open the document. Yes, I do. Documents fields, I prefer the file, that's fine. Yeah, it's just giving you a table of contents. So here it is, my course view, which was the main area of my topic. Here's the mind map that I created, and it's created my table of contents for me, essentially based on my structure of my mind map, essentially all the way through. And then it's also created the different subsections, essentially. So in the case of an essay I'm writing back out, I then use this way to fill back in the areas that I've looked on or I have again research on it. So again, it puts in the links here that I've put in essentially all the way through, and you can use them as a tool to expand on each of these points if you're using it for essay type kind of work essentially all the way through. But I also use it I suppose as a JPEG, so I can export it as a picture, and I can save that onto my phone, and I can use that as a way of memorizing things. So if I have a certain module I'm taking this year, and I've broken down my course into a more pictorial viewpoint essentially all the way through, I can then I can then quickly see all the things that link up that, and it kind of creates a chain reaction essentially in the way I'm picturing it. So when it comes to getting an answer around a certain area, I'm able to link this to these 3 points, and you might have another section here that you can use on. So you're able to, I suppose, map up the dots essentially more effectively, instead of, I suppose, relying on pure text or load the paper essentially, which is, can be difficult to process all the way through. So that is Mind View. Sorry, I will go back and show you quickly. If I click a new one, I click on here, I can build up the thing from scratch by quickly hitting return on the keyboard, build up on my ideas. I can then, I can quickly go in and add sub branches on it and build it up how I wish I want, without using one of the already prepared templates essentially all the way through. So it's quite simple enough to do all the way through. it's something you've probably done on a piece of paper before and highlighted it that way. But this tool, I suppose, just does a bit of heavy lifting for you, and it does have that fact that it's already electronically created, which opens up the way that you can store it and that you recall it and get your hands on it when you need it, essentially all the way through. So that is really a quick synopsis of Mind View and using a mind map to help you for revision. You know, I understand it's quick, and it's, I suppose, the idea of these sessions that they are quite quick in what we are doing. But you are free to give me a shout if you wish. It's me. You are free to give me a shout if you wanted that one-to-one support on this tool. There is mobile solutions on it regarding again mobile using mind maps, but just by the screen size essentially, or the tablet size, it doesn't really allow for that kind of pictorial side of stuff when you're building your mind map from scratch. You can use them obviously when you come through again to recalling that information that you've built, because you've created the mind map at that stage all the way through. But I said, if you're I'm happy to meet with people on Mind View and on mind mapping in general if you wish. All the way through. I said, my name is Andrew Costello. I'm the Assistant Technology Officer, and all you need to do is mail into askds@tcd.ie. So I hope this has been some way helpful for you. If you have any questions or queries, please feel free to come back to me again just by mailing into askds@tcd.ie. Thanks now. Bye-bye.